Today I'll be talking about two of our games, and I'll be talking about retro game design, satire and sentiment. Bill and myself, we're a two-man team. We run an indie game design company in Melbourne, so we currently make 2D retro games for iPad. Bill does the coding, and he couldn't make it today, unfortunately. I design the actual games. My background is with Walt Disney and with Warner Brothers, so I was very lucky to be able to work with both of those companies in Hong Kong, in Australia, a few other places. And Disney for me was a really, really great training ground to be a designer. They really pushed an attention to detail, which was fantastic. So I'm one of those people where really games are fairly new to me. I know we said I was a veteran before. I'm probably a veteran character designer, certainly not a veteran game designer. So you could probably teach me a thing. But what I can do is talk about character design in lots of different ways, especially because of my background with Disney. So we're a new company, we're a small company. What's important for us is that we work at this part-time as well. I know some of you might as well. I would really, really love to do this full-time. I'm sure some other people are thinking the same. I also teach at university, so for me that's really special. You get a really nice balance there. You teach what you know. So you go out and actually do it, and then you teach it as well. I think that's the best way of teaching. So I teach at Swinburne University, and there's someone from Swinburne University from our Sarawak campus up the front here. Hello. So that was a nice surprise for the event as well. We like to make games using parody and satire, so we're always challenging ourselves. We also, we really think about a sentimental sort of gameplay as well. So we design games so that people that played the sorts of games we're designing in the 80s will look at the games that we've got, enjoy the experience because they had a game that was similar. A few notes up there. We embrace sentimentality. We're really into good design with the sound process. So the first game I'll talk about today is Game of Watchcraft, Spawn of Squishy. So we've got a screenshot up here, and you can see that it has two screens, just like the old 80s Game & Watch games. You can see the D-pad there as well. We've tried to recreate that in 3D. Again, trying to do this, this sentimental experience. It's got the 3D console, but it's also got lots of 2D elements as well to replicate that experience from back in the 80s. Many other features as well. You've got the all the little screws and the bits and pieces as well, all to add to that. So, both of these games, this first one is, they're both retro remakes or demakes of modern games in an older style. This one in particular is a 1980s LCD version of a modern MMORPG. So it's a role-playing game, a modern AAA role-playing game as though it was made in the 80s. So it's a bit of a fun concept. So trying to boil down all that complexity into something really, really simple is part of the challenge of being in a company like ours. The player goes on quests to find treasure, to escape monsters, all that fun RPG stuff. What you're seeing down the bottom is just little Squishy here, all the different poses. You've also got him on a little dragon mount up the top there. Okay, so in this game particularly, there's two screens and each screen represents a different little world. You ride the little dragon I showed you before between the worlds. And even as something as simple as this, we've got Game Center integration, we've got leaderboards, we've got achievements, all the social additions to a game like this we've added. This game in particular is a parody because the original LCD games were all about grinding, we thought. It was repeating the same journey over and over. And the modern RPG, the MMORPG, we think is all about grinding as well. So we're being a little bit cheeky, and we're trying to say that this is a parody. So as teachers and designers, we believe in a really, really strong design process. I think it's really, really important that you don't skip any parts of that. So for a start, you're going to do an LCD game, go and buy a whole lot of them, or at least get access to a whole lot of them and play the things. So have a look at how they were designed, have a look at how they play. Do some research first. Then get into sketches of lots of characters, environments, lots and lots of iterations, lots and lots of sketches. We do lots of testing as well. In this case, it's Adobe Flash. Flash isn't dead yet, okay? Coding, might have tried, but certainly for making animations and assets, vector assets, it's a fantastic program. We put everything together in Unity and we test again. So testing lots of animation and testing lots of gameplay, really, really important. Helps with our teaching as well, of course. Now this is the complex bit, really. If you're going to make an LCD game, and we really recreate the original game style, then you need to design with those same design constraints that you had with that game. And in this case, every little tiny bit of screen you could only use once. Okay, so you can see across the bottom here, all the possibilities of the animation was displayed, and then any time you want something to move or be seen as moving, you just display that particular little graphic. But you need to find a place for everything and design it like that. The original had plastic printed background elements, so anything in the background could be colour, so you can see that up the top there. But yes, anything that was moving, and when I say moving, it wasn't really, it was just displaying the next graphic, they were shown as black silhouettes. So if you can see one of the Game & Watches from the 80s, the startup screen, all the sprites were displayed, and it fills up nearly every part of the screen. So very challenging to design. We've also tried to recreate the experience around the actual graphics and the gameplay. So for instance, the backgrounds displayed a shadow on the original LCD game, and when you move the game, the shadows move. So when you move our tablet game, the shadows move as well. Also, when you touch the screen, you used to touch the plastic. That happens on our iPad as well. So we're real sticklers for detail here. Not sure that's good, but we kind of wanted to really recreate that. And tilting the screen as well was almost like tilting those Game & Watch games in the sun, and you could see all the sprites. So we've done all of that in this game. We've gone to silly lengths, really, to make sure this works. You can see at the bottom here all the elements with shadows on them, so the little mountain elements and things like that, you can see the shadow there. So I've got the game in the Indie Showcase there, so if you want to come and have a look, you can have a look at all the groovy shadows. Awesome stuff. Okay, so for our launch, this is actually, I meant to say, this is on iPad out now. Both of these games are. So for launch, we did the usual. We did a website, we used Facebook, we used Twitter. We made product, so I still got some badges out there if you want to come and grab some. We handed them out at PAX, so PAX Australia, and that was fun. And we've had some really nice reviews from, again, sentimental players who appreciated playing those games way back then. So we liked them too. We wanted to share that with people. And people understood the parody. Okay, it's all about the grinding and the repeating of the journey in the LCD and in the MMO RPG. Second game I'd like to talk to is Snip Chu. Again, here's a screenshot. Similar to the first one, we're not going to do every game like this, but the difference here is that it's not two little worlds, it's one world and it's very platformer. It's like the old Donkey Kong, one little journey up through both screens, repeat, 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 gets harder and harder and harder. We've got lots of platforms here. We've also got the App Store icons on the right there with some sketches of what one of the characters look like. We've also got something a little different here where we've got very comic character versions of the silhouettes, and this is an in-game comic intro to our game. Now I'm not sure you can read that. Pretend you can. And go, ooh. Yeah, awesome. So that's just a little intro because it's very character driven and very story driven. that gives a little intro to the game. So you're going to have to check it out there, I'm afraid. So this game is an LCD game. It's the second in our LCDemakes brand. It's based on a graphic novel I did years ago, so we're cheating a little bit. So this is almost like a demake of something more complex, and in this case is a graphic novel. So we're pushing the demake thing a little bit, but hey. The graphic novel's called Snip Chu. We digitised it, put it on the App Store as well, and we put a little bit of, 10 minutes, thank you, a little bit of animation in there, just a tiny bit, where a little bit of parallax gives a little bit of life to the pages. This whole thing, the game and the book, reflects the story about an underground world where rubbish comes alive, and Chew, in the middle there, is a piece of chewing gum, and Snip is a toenail clipping. I'm sorry. So they're all little gross bits of rubbish. The guy at the bottom is the recycler. So the whole idea is that they're all bits of rubbish, they're getting recycled, and they've got to try and survive. So that's gone through at much more length in the novel, simplified a little bit in the game. So this is a satire. When our first game was a parody, this is a satire. What we're saying about the satirical nature of this is that the original games, the LCD games, were recycled anyway. They were journeys. They were recycling the journey. It's kind of nice because the book is a statement about recycling as well. It's a satire that we've made about recycling, waste, greed. The game has fun little traps like spike traps and evil flowers and all that sort of stuff to avoid. And this project in particular was a really good chance to redesign characters that existed already. So I had the graphic novel. We decided to do a little LCD type game, and we redesigned the little 2D. So at the bottom here across the left-hand side and the right middle is the 2D Chew, the 2D elements from the novel. Up the top is the silhouette version of him, okay? And 3D, we were playing around with lots of different game styles. So it was a really good chance to take an existing character and to try different styles. Again, we went with the same design process, same attention to detail that I learnt at Disney as well has come in handy, and a similar sort of game. So for our launch, again, same as the first one, we went with website, Facebook, Twitter during and after the launch. We sent postcards to media, also some Snip Chu badges, things like that. And the reviews we got this time were about, or the good reviews we got were, they really enjoyed the attention to detail and the design generally, because we'd really made a fuss about making sure that design was as spot on as we could get it. Okay, so it's early days for us yet. We're really testing the waters. But what we've learnt so far is, I think good design matters, okay? We go through a particular design process where we do lots of research. You know, pick up the LCD game and have a play before you design an LCD game. I mean, some people don't do that. We do lots of sketches and we do iterative sketches. We do sketches, 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 change all the time. Don't ask your mum if she likes the sketches. She's either going to say, well, she's going to say, if she's at all a nice mum, she's going to say, yes, they're nice and they're lovely. That's not feedback, okay? Show people that really know their stuff and be prepared to get some feedback that's going to be honest and helpful, yeah? Do lots of testing. We still had a few bugs. We tested a lot. We tested the animation a lot in Flash. So I worked through sketches and then into Illustrator, then into Flash, and I test the animation in Flash. Lots of testing of the actual gameplay as well. So once all that was done and we had a nice looking game, or what we thought was a nice looking game, then we were lucky enough to know a bit about marketing and things like that. So we made a decent trailer and we made decent marketing material as well. That's important. Try and understand what sort of game you're making. When I say we've made an endless grinder, I'm not sure that's a really positive way of saying it, but essentially we made a really fun experience that replicated that 80s experience. If you get a bit of media attention with your game, you really need to know what you're saying. Okay, so we've made an LCD demake. Okay, it's 2D, all that sort of information try and know about. Parody, that's what we learned as well. Parody is really challenging because you're referencing other people's IP. You can be as clever as you like and try and, do a parody and make fun of someone's games, but or have a laugh with someone about their grinding in the games and things like that. But you still need to be respectful about it. Free over paid apps, I'm sure that's nothing new. Both of these games are paid, and they're doing okay. But every single time we put them free for a day, through the roof downloads, of course. Of course. I suppose the one thing I want to leave you with today is we come from games as more than just a distraction. We really want to design an experience, which is why we really embrace that sentimentality. We think games can be more than just entertainment as well. We can make a statement about society, so a satirical look at something. We can design a sentimental experience, like I've said a few times, and we can have fun with parody. Thank you very much.